Welcome again. This is Brother G coming to you again with another video message. Thank you for stopping by. The topic that we're going to be dealing with today is to be resurrected from tongues prophesying. And the reason why I title it The Resurrection from Tongues Prophesying, it's not really tongues speaking as we would say. It is not tongues speaking as our everyday dialect that we speak into, like we speak to our family in that dialect, we speak to the people. Usually it's the same ethnicity or language at a particular church, that language that we saw. It's not really tongues speaking as in everyday language. It's really tongues prophesying. And if you look in Corinthians, you will see that it's really tongues prophesying. People were doing this sort of ritual at a particular time at a particular place. So it's really tongues prophesying, trying to speak of something to come or something unknown to other people. Right off the bat, this is what I would clearly and distinctly say about tongue speaking. That any church hear this message, they should, I'm telling you right now, stop from speaking in the tongues that we have become accustomed to. That's basically what this video teaching is about. Stop speaking in the tongues that we were socialized to speak in. Now, I'm just going to go through some very simple argument and mention two New Testament letter, what was given to us, and show you without a shadow of a doubt. Of course, it will be debatable because it's going to be debatable. That's what some people do. But we're going to show you without a shadow of a doubt that the tongues that the church nowadays presently is participating is not the same as the New Testament church described. First of all, the tongues, when they were in Pentecost, the tongues that they were speaking, the people that were speaking the tongues were of the same ethnicity and the same language as the people in the city. Yes, of course, you're going to be reading and saying, the people came and they said that, how is that these Galileans speaking the same language as we? If you go back into the history of the book, the whole book, you would realize that a lot of the people who were Galileans, they were poor, they were in the ghetto, but their ancestry meaning their ancestry came from the very same people who were in the city at the time. These people, Peter and all these people, their ancestry was from another place. If you go and look at the history, it's simply about colonizing and bringing people from other regions to live in another region, which their ancestry is really the one that they were speaking at the time of Pentecost. But the point that I want to show with this is that when those people were speaking in other language as the Spirit gave them utterance, realize in the text that it wasn't the same people that was speaking, interpret what they were saying. It was the other people in the city that came recognizing their own language. So unless the tongues that is prophesying is not of the people that is around them or the people them outside language, then it's going to be confusion. Let me say that again. If the tongues is not understood by the people who are speaking it or the people who is hearing it, then that can't be of God. It's not clear, it's not concise, it's only will cause confusion. Now in this case, as we read the New Testament, basically when they were speaking in other languages, it was other languages that was known by the other people and they could have interpreted what they were saying. It never clarify if the people who were speaking it understood what they were saying. I have to assume, and I'm going to use what was given to us, that by a reasonable doubt, how can we speak something that we don't know what we are saying? In other words, it's as if we were blowing the trumpet of war and we don't know the chords of the sound to give for the trumpet of war or retreat. And so they give us a horn or whatever it is. And so we have not learned. And so we are blowing the horn and we don't know the sound that we are blowing. How is it going to be possible for the people who is hearing the sound going to understand what we don't know what we are blowing? In other words, other words, if I don't know what I am saying, how is it possible that the people that is hearing me will understand what I am saying, because I don't understand what I'm saying? So coming back to Pentecost, how would it be possible of God for this enormous confusion to take place? The people are speaking in other languages. How did they know to worship God, in the sense that they were glorifying God, telling that God is good, God is great, God is awesome from the Psalms? How would they know to worship God without knowing what they are saying? This doesn't make sense. You have to have, if first you're going to sound an alarm, you must know what the alarm means, the different sounds, the different chords that the sound would emit, so that when a person is confused, you could say, this is what is meant by it. Now, I've seen countless times where the speaker of the tongues prophesying, it don't understand what they are saying, and it is obviously that the people who is hearing the tongues prophecy will be confused, and that makes sense. But if the person who is going to speak in another language, as we say, as the church say, then therefore they must clearly understand what they are emitting, so that the people hearing will understand and be edified. The term edify meaning build up. The term edify don't mean confusing. And in anything we do, how can, which is happening today in our schools, I've been in the schools and I've seen it myself, there's a lot of teachers who do not know what they are teaching. Of course, they could pass the certificate, they have their bachelor's, their master degree, they could have all the requirements to teach, but a lot of teachers don't know what they are teaching. That is why you have children coming out, not everyone, but children coming out of school don't understanding what they're supposed to do in the world. That's basically what this is. So, in other words, how can you speak in a language that you don't understand? And furthermore, if you go into the letter of the Corinthians, what Paul described there is, when a certain person speak, it's the other person that must interpret. And this kind of create what you would call it, the words that I'm looking for is authentic. That means if you speak in an unknown language, the language is familiar to the next prophet or the prophetess, if you want to say, and it would make the message authentic, so that everybody would agree and be built up and edify. But if it's usually the prophet that is speaking that is interpret, there has to be some form of trust. And even if there's some form of trust with the person who is speaking, we have to test it. We can't just believe because you are speaking in another tongue. And so we have to test it to see if it is truly is true. So the point here of tongues being resurrected from tongue speaking, the truth is, how can God know the language that is spoken amongst a particular group of people, then give a message? Because God's a spirit, right? According to Jesus and according to what is given to us and according to what we understand now. If God is a spirit, wouldn't the spirit understand that the people that we are speaking to in that particular group or church speak a particular language? Wouldn't he give the message so that the people would be built up when they hear the sound of the message? No, that's I think that makes sense. Would he give a message that would confuse the speaker and confuse the hearer? In this case, the speaker is the mediator between what he's hearing, and I'm not going to say what I've got, I'm going to say what he's hearing, and between the people that he's speaking to. He's pretty much the mediator. So if the mediator don't understand what he's hearing, how can the mediator emit sounds for the hearer to understand what they hear and supposed to do? In other words, there is no way, if we say God is wise, God is knowledge, that is understanding, the Spirit of God could give a mediator confusing words and language so that he could emit a sound to the people that he's speaking to and they can't understand. Now, people is going to go to Isaiah and they're going to go to Paul and say he's going to speak and they don't understand, and they're going to see and they're going to not hear and they're not going to perceive. It doesn't mean that the people were speaking, the prophet were speaking another language. What the prophet was speaking, they were speaking in signs, they were speaking in codes, they were speaking in allegory, they were speaking in simile. And because the people were ignorant, in other words, the people didn't understand these things, signs and things, it makes them to wonder when the prophets speak, because the prophet were speaking in allegory, like Jesus was speaking in parable. The people like me for years was wondering what the heck is these people saying, because we didn't understand that. Oh, they're speaking in allegory, they're speaking in simile, they're speaking in signs, they're speaking in codes, they're speaking in all these terms. So we were confused. So we couldn't perceive, we couldn't hear, and we couldn't understand what the heck these guys were saying to us. Yes, that's basically what it was. So now, I understand now. So who's going to confuse me? There's no spirit that's going to come to me, and if I don't understand it, I can't emit a sound that I don't understand, even speaking in another language. A Spanish sister, it takes a year to speak in another language, whether it's unknown or known, to understand what you are saying so that you can have a conversation with someone of another language. We don't just wake up speaking Spanish. We don't just wake up speaking French. We don't even wake up speaking English. We have to learn. If we are not culturizing our particular language, we have to learn the language. The power of God is not going to come from heaven and you automatically speak in Spanish or speak in another language that you were not accustomed to. That is legitimate and that is real. So therefore, we have to understand what we are hearing as a mediator before we emit a sound to the people that are hearing us. And what we have seen, a lot of preachers, a lot of teachers have not understand what they have heard and have incubated a lot of people in the wilderness of forgery, in the wilderness of sin and shame and fault, because the mediators have not known what they have heard. And so they have cut off many of the people's lives without understanding. And this could be morphed into, there's a lot of mediators who still don't understand. They have not come to the knowledge of the understanding or the truth or the understanding. So they have kept people going around in circles, in circles, in circles, because the particular mediator do not understand what he or she have been hearing. So this message is, let us all be resurrected from tongues prophesying in the church and speak to the particular people in a language that they understand, what they know, and they are accustomed to. So if you speak patois which is really not even English. Patois sound like French, which we know so we were partly colonized by the French. And some of our words in Jamaica is Spanish. That's obvious. So let us speak to the people them in a language where them know. So first of all, the mediator between the people them and what them I hear must understand what them I hear so that they can emit words to the people them and make the people them move according to the true words them. But if you speak in a tongue where you don't understand, neither the people them understand, how can the people be edified?